Hello, loves. I hope all is well with you. I wanted to stop by today to talk about a topic that I think is very important when we talk about spiritual growth, and that is shadow work. Okay, so shadow work. What is shadow work? So shadow work is those unconscious parts of our personality, those parts that we repress, that we deny, or that we disown due to anger, grief, resentment. And we can also, it could be a strength that we're just not completely tapped into. Or maybe someone in the past have told you that, that strength or that gift that you have is too much. So you start to suppress it. A lot of this happens early, like in childhood. Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. If you can think back, have you ever found yourself reacting strongly to something and you wonder, man, why does this bother me so much? Like, what is the problem? Why am I always triggered this much by, this topic or by this person or, in this space? And maybe you keep attracting the same situations like relationships or challenges over and over again. And if so, shadow work may be trying to get your attention while you're on your spiritual journey, becoming the best versions of yourself. So let's talk about shadow work a little bit, and why it matters. And there's three things that we kind of look at when we're talking about shadow work. And one is awareness, okay? Awareness. The second is acceptance. And then the third is integration, okay? So when we look at awareness, awareness is important because it's important to notice those triggers. Notice that something is triggering an emotion, within you. And like I said, it could be, some unhealed, it's a sign to you that there's some unhealed wounds. Okay. And your reaction, to that, right, to that trigger, comes off as a projection. So it is a projection of that shadow self. Okay. So awareness means paying attention once again to those emotional triggers. It's those reoccurring patterns of behavior and those strong reactions to a trigger. All right. So it's important to ask yourself, why does this situation upset me so much? Okay. Why do I keep repeating the same pattern? What emotion am I trying to avoid here in this situation? And what belief about myself is showing up right now in this moment? Okay, because that's very important. We're going to get to that. But a lot of times these triggers are attached to a perception, a thought, okay, a belief about yourself. And what I have noticed in doing my own shadow work is that those beliefs are a lot of times tied to other people's, perception or something that you were told as a child. And then you just kind of adopted it, as truth. But doing that shadow work just helps you to understand that that may not even be your truth and it may not fit you at all. Okay. So keep that in mind. Every trigger is information. I know nobody likes to be triggered, but it really is, it's that coming up from the subconscious, right? It's letting you know that, something is wrong here. Something needs you. Well, not necessarily wrong. I don't want to look at it in those terms, but it's definitely letting you know that something needs your attention. Think about a child is crying, right? They need your attention. It's something that they need from you, right? So instead of judging yourself for feeling angry, hurt, or insecure, become curious about the trigger, right? Because curiosity opens the door for healing. So once you can tap in and, why does this trigger me so much? Or why does this person trigger me so much? Then that curiosity opens the door for you to ask more questions, right? And seek more, do more introspection, which then allows you to identify those emotions, which is strengthening your awareness, right? And then we get to awareness. Awareness, all in all, helps you to identify what's happening beneath the surface, okay? Rather than simply reacting automatically. A term I like is respond versus react, right? So as we're working with through our shadow self, understanding the shadow parts of ourselves, we become more, we're able to respond, right? We should be more responsive instead of more reactive. If we look at our world, there's so much, going on in so many different spaces. And this is my personal, just me looking out into the world, because there's a lot of reaction, right? And not enough responding. Because when you respond, you can listen, you can observe through non-judgment. All right. Step 2, acceptance, right? So I said there's 3 parts. So we talked about awareness, so acceptance. Sometimes this is the hardest part, okay? To accept that shadow part of ourself, right? To accept that sometimes, you may say you may have to admit to yourself that sometimes you are insecure. Sometimes you may see yourself as a calm person, a good person, but you have to admit that sometimes, I'm angry and I don't know what to do with that. Sometimes I don't like that part of myself, right? So acceptance is the most important part of that, because acceptance does not mean approving unhealthy behaviors. Okay, so that's not what it means. Accepting it is just to accept that this is a part of me, right? Because like I said, then you come into awareness of, okay, what do I need to do next to work through this? All right, so very important. Many people try to heal by pretending that difficult emotions don't exist. That's another thing that we don't want to do. When we want to accept, right, that in this moment I'm angry, right? In this moment I'm uncomfortable. It's important for you to accept that. All right. When you can honestly say, yes, I feel hurt. Yes, I feel jealous. Yes, I struggle with these abandonment issues. You can remove that power, that kind of, you remove that power from hiding behind those feelings. Okay, you become, you're more in control, right, of those emotions, because you understand that you're not your wounds. Okay, you're not your fears. You're not your past, and you in a lot of cases, like I said, you're not even those beliefs about yourself that you have, attached to yourself, because maybe that was something, that was created because of a situation that happened, or that could have been someone else's projection on you, right? A parent, so to speak, telling you that you're worthless and you're never going to be anything. You're never going to amount to anything, okay? That's something you have adopted that, but that's not your belief. You may not feel that way about yourself at all. And that's why shadow work is so important. So the last step is integration. All right, so integration means taking what you've learned about yourself and allowing that to become a part of your conscious awareness. So a lot of times, and I know I always, in my videos, I send peace, love, and light, right? But those of us who have done the work understand that it's not always peaceful. You don't feel like always you're in the light. And the love, it feels like everything but that, right? But when you can bring all that into balance, and through this integration process, you learn that all of it's good. You learn to accept all the parts of you, right? The struggle, right? The angry parts of you, because the loving parts of you, because you learn that all of those things are a part of you. And in a lot of cases, your anger may have helped you, right? Anger may have been a defense mechanism, right? It could have been your protection, because maybe you grew up in an environment where you had to wear a mask, right, of anger, because you were trying to suppress fear, right, or to survive in a situation. So all of that is a part of you, and so it should not be seen as bad or negative. However, integrating those parts, those positives and negative parts, and creating balance with that, understanding that that's part of you, and there's strength in acknowledging that. Okay. Your shadow self reveals fear of rejection, and integration might involve setting healthier boundaries. So a lot of times with integration, it's basically you're moving from, judgment to setting those healthy boundaries, right? You're integrating your shadow, and you're becoming more of your authentic self, more emotionally balanced, okay, more self-aware. And remember, the goal with all of this, right, with any parts of spiritual work that you're doing, self-work, healing, the goal is not perfection, okay? The goal is wholeness, all right? Just wanting to become the better version, right, of yourself in this season. And then when you get to the next season, right, in that season, I always say that healing is continual, because a lot of times when we think that we've healed some aspect of ourselves, or we have faced some shadow part of ourselves, then something happens, and then, there's something else that we have to face. And that's okay, right? We're not looking for perfection, but progression, right? Just being progressive. All right. So that's important. So I want you to remember, we talked about 3 things when we talk about shadow work: awareness, acceptance, and integration. Okay. So awareness is noticing what's showing up, right? Those triggers. Acceptance is acknowledging, without judgment. So we can understand the behavior pattern without judging it, right? Kind of like helping a child, right? If there's a child that's upset, or they have done something wrong, they have had an accident or something, you're helping them. You're not going to judge them, because you understand that they're learning and they're growing and they're understanding their world and their environment. So you're going to treat yourself with that same, give yourself that same grace through acceptance. Integration, using what you've learned to grow. All right. And it's as simple as that. So shadow work isn't about focusing on what's wrong with you. I want you to remember that. It's about understanding the parts of yourself that need healing, compassion, and attention. All right. Through awareness, acceptance, and integration, you can transform your triggers into opportunities for growth. And just to expand on this a little bit, over on my YouTube channel, and it's Happy -U Tarot, and it'll be linked below. I'm going to be sharing a series, so if that's something that you're interested in, I'm going to be doing tarot readings for each zodiac sign, and we're going to be looking at some of those shadow parts. But keep in mind, and then what to do to start to remove blockages. Okay, keep in mind, the information that I share on YouTube is general, okay? So it may apply to you, it may not. But I'm always available also for personal readings. So if you need a personal reading or consultation, I'm working on some stuff with a new website. But right now you can send me a message, DM me, and then I will send you all the information that you need to book a personal reading. I hope that this helps. I'll talk to you soon. Peace, love, and light.